Hello again. This is Steve Post in the Wing Nation studio. Tires. We have spent a lot of time. In fact, this past week in the work area, we spent a lot of time talking about tires. And I got thinking, I said, we hear from so many people. Why don't we talk to guys that know far more about it than we do? Let's talk to someone from Hoosier, and then when we get done, we're going to talk with Brent Marks and kind of get his perspective because he's kind of the driver that's kind of got a lot of this conversation started. And so joining me now on the hotline, he is the Dirt Oval Business Unit Manager for Hoosier Racing Tires. Neil Cowman is on the line. Hello, Neil. How are you?
Hi, Steve. I'm doing great, and of course, it's a very, very busy time for us. And but I really appreciate you having me on the show.
Well, I'll tell you what, I want your perspective. There's so much speculation and social media drama. I want your perspective, and let's get right into this. Just a couple of issues or topics. Neil, my first question for you, like when we talk about the supply chain issues, are there issues with supply chain elements, ingredients? Are there issues with manpower? Where are you guys at that with Hoosier?
Well, there definitely is a supply issue with raw materials, but quite honestly, and really, I'm going to go back to the pandemic back in the spring of 2020, just really quickly, if I can.
Sure.
That happened in March of 2020, and we had a sufficient amount of inventory built up in our warehouse for really all forms of racing. Of course, March is when everything really kicks off nationwide. But then we had the sudden shutdown and lockdowns, and racing really came to a halt. But for us at that time, we never did shut down manufacturing. Now, we did have some rolling layoffs. We did scale back production because at that point, every day it was getting our crystal ball out. Yeah. When will racing return? And when it returns, what kind of demand will there be? And will all parts of the country come back at the same time? So, we knew at that time is we have to be prepared when racing restarts. So we never did shut down manufacturing. We did have some rolling layoffs. And when racing did return very strong in May and June of that summer, we were able to supply the industry, and we had enough tires that summer, which we were, very proud of what we did. Mm-hmm. But coming out of those layoffs, we did have some employees that didn't return. And really since that time, we've been trying to build up our workforce ever since then. And we've been trying to keep up with the demand. Now, for us here in northern Indiana, it's a very, very competitive workforce right now. The county next to us is Elkhart County. And, of course, that's the RV and trailer capital of the United States. And there's a high demand in that market as well. So we're competing against the same labor market as the trailer and RV industry.
That's got to just be. We've seen this everywhere. You can't get seated at a restaurant these days at times. So really, this is kind of an overriding issue that's impacting you guys. Continues to impact Hoosier.
Absolutely. So. Again, the biggest thing for us right now today is not so much the raw materials that are limiting the production, but it's just getting enough people hired to keep up with demand. And we're seeing improvements in that. We're gaining on our employees. Our daily production numbers are coming up. But, it takes time. When we get new employees hired, there's a tremendous amount of handwork involved in building these bi-ply sprint car tires and dirt tires. Mm-hmm. And so it takes, when you hire someone and they have a desire to work, they have some skill set, it takes several months, upwards to even a year, to get really skilled at building a complex sprint car dirt tire or maybe a drag slick. So as you're training that person, someone has to train that person. And the person that's doing the training is a longtime veteran worker, and as he's training that person, his productivity comes down. Mm-hmm. So, it makes it very challenging. Yes, we're seeing an increase in employees, but the production numbers are coming up, but it takes time. And we're going to continue to it's going to be very tight all summer on supply.
Yeah. Is there you mentioned, and we talked about the workforce, are there specific raw materials that are challenging as well? We see that, and Neal, I've got a friend that runs a pie company, and there's one ingredient, I forget what it was, he was telling me they can't get to make pies. Is there an ingredient challenge or are parts or pieces challenge as well?
I wouldn't say any just one specific part, but all of it's kind of challenging at times. The carbon black, the chemicals, the nylon. But again, we've been able to get those supplies in a timely manner to keep production going. Again, the biggest thing with keeping up with production is really just, again, increasing our workforce.
Good.
And I'd really like to take this time to really thank all the men and women in our manufacturing facility. A lot of these people are race fans, and they take it. They have a lot of pride in what they do and what they build, and we're working around the clock. We're a 3-shift company. 5 days a week, around the clock, and we also have weekend work right now, Saturday and sometimes Sunday. So just really like to thank everybody in our manufacturing facility. They're just working their butts off.
Yeah, I love the signs when you go to a restaurant. Thank the people who did show up at work. And I'm sure they're grinding it out and busting their tail to get these tires out the door. So I'm glad you took the time to do that, because sometimes we direct venom to the people who are actually doing the job, and that's good. You've got a good workforce there, and I'm glad you mentioned them. So we get into last week. And I can't even imagine sitting around what the discussion is when you're going to have to lay a price increase, second price increase here recently. The process to get there, Neal, that just cannot be a fun day at the office.
No, it's not at all. It's very, very difficult. We've had very lengthy, difficult discussions daily about the price increase. And I've been here at Hoosier for 34 years, and typically we have a price increase effective January 1st of each year, and those prices, we generally never have a mid-season price increase. And over the years, I think back to 2008 when we had the economic downturn and gas prices at that time were pushing $5 and per gallon, and of course, a lot of the what goes into building tires is oils and chemicals. And so, in 2008, we had a significant spike in raw material costs that summer, but we did not pass any of that on to the customers. We held our pricing the entire year, and we always have done that. We've always tried to be sensitive of the industry. But here we are, unprecedented times. Our raw material costs are increasing at historical high levels. Mm-hmm. Again, talking about the labor, we've had to increase wages. We're doing creative things to retain workers. And we've had to do creative things like on the back shifts, the second and third shifts. Every one of those people are very important in manufacturing. And, of course, the logistic cost of getting the materials to our doorstep. All of these things are just at historical highs, and they continue to skyrocket. And even with the price increase we implemented just recently, we're still not covering all the cost that we're seeing on the raw materials.
It just again, it just echoes every industry. You see this across the board. We just happen to be sprint car fans and dirt track fans. That's for sure. Overall, obviously, when a decision is made to make a price increase, there's going to be a reaction. There's obviously been social media chatter. Brent Marks made a statement with the neckband and the decal on the car. Your take on that? Do you pay much attention to that? What's your reaction to that, Neal?
Well, we do pay attention to that, and believe me, Brent Marks, I have a tremendous amount of respect for Brett. Actually, I was just thinking on Sunday morning after he won at Devil's Bowl, I'm like, wow, he's off to a hot start. He won at Lincoln Speedway already. He left Central PA, went down and won at Devil's Bowl. Brett's off to a hot start. He's, in my opinion, a very underrated racer. I don't know where he stands in the power rankings right now in sprint car racing, but Brent's. I have a tremendous amount of respect for Brent, his team, and we respect all these car owners and drivers, and we're sensitive to what they're saying, and even talking about the employees in the plant. They see what's being said, and they take it personal. And again, those people in the plant, they're doing everything they can every day to get the needed tires built to keep up with the demand. Not only in sprint car racing, but we're seeing a tremendous demand in all forms of racing, from karting, quarter midgets, drag racing, circuit racing, oval track asphalt.
It's almost like the growth of motorsports. Look, Neal, Millbridge last week had 35 600 micros. They haven't had. It's been mid-20s on a good night. The overall growth of the sport has got to be tough to factor in as well. It's a great problem to have, but it's got to be a challenging factor as well.
It is very challenging, and right now, today,
yeah.
I just think overall dirt racing in general, it's at an all-time high popularity in our country, I feel, and there's many reasons for that, and and some of the reasons, I just look at the Cup team car owners right now. They're allowing their drivers to go out and moonlight and do what they grew up doing and what they're passionate about. And I think what Kyle Larson has done. You look at Seabell. Yep. I think Seabell won Power Eye midget race a couple weeks ago in a micro race, I believe, on the same night. I believe at I-44 in Riverside, I believe, or it might have been Port City. I can't remember which race it was that weekend. But what Kyle Larson has done, Seabell, Chase Briscoe, even Alex Bowman, who, by the way, was very impressive down at Volusia County Speedway in February.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of digressing and getting off course talking about Hoosier, but I think that these are some of the factors that have just created such a demand in oval track dirt racing, and not just sprint cars, but just again, from what we're seeing at Millbridge, like you mentioned, in midgets, non-wing sprints, all forms of dirt racing.
So, Neal, finally, how do we manage this now going forward as far as inventory, supply? You've indicated you guys are pedaling with your workforce as hard as you can and getting more people on board. What is the prospect look like for this year, and how do you work with series and sanctioning bodies on these challenges?
Well, we are right now today, we're having conversations with sanctioning bodies and tracks, and we're having daily conversations with our distributor and dealer network. Because I will say, again, the demand has not cooled off whatsoever. Not just in sprint car racing, but all types of dirt racing. And I will say it's going to continue to be a very challenging year to keep up with the demand and the supply. And I go back to last summer. Supply was very, very tight. But we managed to get the right tires produced, and we managed to get the right tires in the right places all season long to keep all racing going. And again, that's something we've been very proud of. And really, that continues today into 2022. we're doing the same thing. We're producing tires. We're trying to get the tires to the right locations, the right distributors, and get them into the dealers' hands so we can keep the racing going. But it's going to be very tight.
Yeah. Yep. That's kind of what we've heard, but it's great to get your perspective and understand that as well from your perspective. Personally, you talk about you were hired by Hoosier in 1988. You talked about, I heard you on an Open Red conversation, being a kid growing up, going to Williams Grove and Lincoln. It's kind of cool to get your dream job, but some days it's got to be a challenge for you personally as you deal with all of this, Neal. What's it been like for you personally as a passionate sprint car guy going through this last couple of years, actually?
Well, it's been very, very difficult, and no different than every employee that builds the tires,
Yep.
and I take it personal too, and it's been very difficult. Yes, it has been.
Yeah, Neal, I appreciate it. I love your passion for the sport, your passion for dirt track racing, and building those quality Hoosier tires. We appreciate your perspective and sharing that with us here on Wing Nation. I think it's something that needed to be heard, and maybe opens up our eyes to some of the discussion points we've heard out there. So thanks again, Neal. We appreciate the time.
I appreciate it, Steve, and I just like to say one more time,
Sure.
I really would like to thank all our distributors and all the dealers out there. They're on the front line every weekend, and they're doing everything they can as well.
There you go. Yeah, you're right about that. They hear it and live it as well. That's Neil Cowman, the Dirt Oval Business Unit Manager for Hoosier Racing Tires. Thanks again, Neal, and we're going to step away. When we come back, we'll have Brent Marks. But thanks, Neal.
Thank you so much, Steve.
You got it. A special edition of Wing Nation as we're talking one of the issues, tires. And we appreciate, again, Neil Cowman from the Hoosier Racing Tires coming on and joining us to give the perspective of the manufacturer and all the challenges they're dealing with, the perspective of a team owner and a driver and all the challenges he's dealing with, although Saturday night at Devil's Bowl didn't look like a lot of challenges. That car was on a rail. We will talk a little bit about that. But Brent Marks joins us from somewhere down in the state of Texas. Hello, Brent. Welcome back to Wing Nation.
Thanks for having me on, Steve. It's great to be on with you again.
Yeah, I want to talk about that big win, but while it's fresh in mind and we just got off the phone with Neal and the Hoosier Tire deal, you became the poster child. I think every race car driver probably on the planet is probably had a lot of the same sentiment going into this. You became the poster child on Saturday night with your decision not to wear the neckband and the marking out the decal on the car. Brent, just walk us through your decision to make that stand.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not one to really be vocal about things. And I just thought that, doing a silent protest was something that I was comfortable with, because I don't like to get online and, and stir and just stir the pot. And, but, as a team owner and, what a lot of people don't realize is this is also a business for us. So I felt like I needed to make some type of stand against the increase in price. And I'm not, I know, there's supply chain issues and just everything going on within Hoosier, the company, and it's every single company. But, we've had a 31.5% increase this year in tire prices. And that's huge. Don't sound like a lot when you're spending an extra $70 for a tire a night, but when you add that up over a period of time throughout the entire year, that comes up to thousands of dollars a year. And it's frustrating because we have already set our budgets for the year. So we made deals with our sponsors, they set their budgets. And so we're not in a position where we can just go to our sponsors and be like, hey, we have to raise our sponsorship up 31%. Like, you just can't do that in the racing world. It just doesn't work that way. So we're having to eat a lot of that, and it's very difficult when you try to race professionally to manage that. And I feel like that was a great time to try to maybe put pressure on Hoosier to maybe ruffle their feathers a little bit, to put pressure on the tracks and series to try to figure something out. Because what I'm afraid of, everybody has money to race right now, but when we get to summertime, there's going to be no money left for a lot of these race teams, especially back in Pennsylvania. And then when you start seeing 15, 16, maybe even less cars show up at Williams Grove on a Friday night or on a Saturday night at Port Royal, a lot of fans are going to start getting upset and they're just not going to show up, and it's just going to start hurting everybody. So I think now is the time to try to figure something out. And I'm not saying that, we need to change tire companies or open a tire roll or anything like that. Like, I don't think that's feasible right now. But what needs to happen, I think, is the rules need to change, and maybe we just need to go to a hard tire. That way we can get a night or two out of them. That's going to make up a huge difference at the end of the year when we can save, an extra $300. I mean, right now with tax, we're spending $301 for a rear tire, and that's right rear and left rear. And it'd be different if, I don't mean to pick on Hoosier too much, but, the product's not that great right now. We're getting tires that we're racing that's growing or shrinking 2.5 inches during a race. And our air pressure is all fine. That's very frustrating. We're getting tires with lots of camber built in them. You're sitting flat on the trailer floor, and the thing's leaning, looks like 2 inches to one direction. Like, we can't run that stuff. We've had a lot of tires that are out of round. And when we have those issues, because of the supply chain issues, they're not taking returns. So a lot of these other teams are getting stuck with these tires that they can't use. So it's just a very frustrating situation. And I don't know. I just feel like something needs to be done. And I think now is the time before everybody starts running out of money.
So there's two aspects of this to me. The timing of this, and standing on victory lane with a $20,000 win is certainly putting the spotlight on it. You just feel like let's get the dialogue, let's get the conversation started, let's be positive, preemptive on this, so that in August we don't have those grim scenarios that you laid out.
Yeah, exactly. And the reason why I did what I did was, because the Hoosier neckband is mandatory, the sticker on our cars are mandatory to race with series. And, as a team owner, I don't, when we're having issues like this, I don't want to have to represent something that I'm not happy with, if that makes sense. So, I can't just take the sticker off my car. I mean, it's mandatory to race with the World of Outlaws and the All-Stars or whatever. So I just felt like, I could make a statement by putting a black piece of tape through it and just kind of get the conversation started. And calling Hoosier privately, or these tracks and series privately, that's one thing. We always talk, and it seems like you may have that conversation. It seems like you get somewhere, but then a week down the road or 2 weeks down the road, it's like nothing happens. It never happens. And it's very frustrating. And a lot of other teams can back me up on that. So, it seems like in today's world, the only way to get through to get something accomplished is to do it publicly, unfortunately. But that's just the way the world works right now. And like I said, I don't really like to be in the spotlight in this issue, but as a team owner and a business owner, I feel like I have to try to fight for this, because I have obligations to my sponsors to compete as much as I can this year. And, I set a schedule of, 100 some races that I wanted to race this year. And it might get to a point where I'm just going to have to pick and choose, because I, still got to make money at this somehow. I'm just very thankful that I have the people that I have behind me supporting me to be able to do what I do. And, just trying to help as much as I can, and just stick up for the guys that don't have the type of support I have.
That's neat. So to me, it's like we have the tire, the cost, the supply, the inventory issue, but to me, it also sounds like communication issue as well. And I believe you've done a good job getting that conversation started. We're talking about it here. What is the reaction been, from anybody and everybody? Have you heard from series? Have you heard, I'm assuming fellow drivers and team owners are probably what has the reaction been in general, Brent?
Yeah, no, I mean, I've heard a lot of reaction from other teams and drivers, that have been supporting this. Unfortunately, I haven't heard a word from any series or tracks or Hoosier itself. So, that's kind of unfortunate, but, it is what it is. I'm just hoping that, this opens up a lot of people's eyes, and they just don't realize. I like to look in the future, and I just don't think people realize what the consequences are going to be this year. Like, our sport is in a great spot right now. We don't want to take a step backwards and ruin it by, people not being able to afford to race, and I mean, I'll be honest, like my tire budget this year is going to be 25, maybe 30,000 more than last year. That's a lot of money,
Jeez.
you know. And this year it's going to be double what my motor bills are. Remember when the big topic was people can't afford motors? Well, now it's people can't afford tires, and it's it's sad. And I'll use Volusia for example. That last night it cost us $1,100 to time trial. So we burned that many tires off, and it's just that's a lot of money to try to make up. And then
wow,
we have our diesel price, gas prices and diesel price, and then come summertime, that's going to cost tracks a lot of money to keep their track prep, good. And if they're not seeing that it's feasible for them to keep spending that type of money, we're going to have some racetracks that are going to be hard on tires, and imagine the type of the cost it's going to be. So I just think we need to do something. I think the easiest thing to do is just make a rule change and just go to a hard tire, and we'll figure it out. There's going to be a lot of teams that are winning championships and races that are probably going to complain about that just because they got a program that works. I feel like I got a program that works, but I just think something needs to be done. And I'm not saying it needs to last forever, just until things get under control. That's all.
Get things pointed in a positive direction. That's for sure. I appreciate you laying that out for us, Brent. I really do. It's tough with a picture or a tweet or something like that. So I appreciate you laying that out in a logical, sensible way of doing it. The other thing that I wanted to talk to you about, and Aaron and I talked about this on Tuesday, it is so difficult running with the World of Outlaws. Right now, the competition level with the World of Outlaws is through the roof. It has got to be absolutely amazing to be able to roll in and whoop those guys like you did at Devil's Bowl. Granted, you went to Volusia and you were on the opposite end of it, but it has got to be nice to go somewhere like that and to be as dominant as you were on Saturday night, Brent.
Yeah, we had a really good car, and we were fortunate. We got a good pill draw in the dash that made a big difference. But I felt like we had a good enough car. We could have worked our way up through there if we had to start a little deeper. But it's just, Heath and Fudd just work really hard for me, and we all work one as a team. And I think that, creates success. So we've been gelling really well together and working together. It's not a one-man band around here, and not one single person makes decisions. We all talk about it and go on, with our night and make decisions together. And it's just been working really well. So very fortunate to be able to come down here and win that race. That I felt like that was a big race for me, to win in the home state of Alan Murray and his family, who are partners on our car, and just felt really special to me. So yeah, it's just awesome. I love racing with the World of Outlaws. I think it's still the premier series in the country, and the things that they have done over the last few years to raise their purses and their points fund, and everything they have going on. They just seem to be making it better every year for us, and very appreciative of that. And I wish I could be out there with them a lot more than we are right now. But the way life is for us right now, it's just we're happy doing what we're doing.
If the World of Outlaws roll into Port Royal, or you or Anthony or Lance Deweese or Logan whoop them, that's fine. If they roll into Lincoln and Danny does it, to go and actually I was thinking about this. It's not even and you've won at neutral sites, places where they haven't ran a lot. You almost went to World of Outlaws home turf, not only the historical home turf of that, but when you're talking those World of Outlaw teams, they have so many laps around Devil's Bowl that we talk about getting off the porch. You almost went to somebody else's porch. That's got to be neat to be able to do that at a historic place like Devil's Bowl.
Yeah, for sure. And I spent 3 years on the Outlaw Tour, yeah. So I know how I've learned a lot of how they compete from race to race, and the importance of getting that setup that's just solid everywhere you go. And it's just about putting yourself in position to win those races, and you go back to PA, and there's some guys that are going to be more superior than the Outlaws, just because their setup that kind of works everywhere is just okay there. But But as long as they get qualified and get themselves in a dash, they have a shot to win that race every night. And so that's just, that's something that you have to learn being out on the road. And, I just know there's, something I was guilty of this back when I raced PA. I mean, there's one night that you win a race and you're like, man, I just wasn't good enough. And you go ahead and do a total 180 for the next week to try to get better. And then you run 18th. So that's just something you can't do on the Outlaw Tour because you don't hit the same track every week. So you just have to find that common ground and work with it every week and get yourself in position. And yeah, we had a dominating race there on Saturday, but my car wasn't perfect. I honestly don't think anybody's going to find a perfect car anymore right now. But
Right.
you just have to get out there and muscle it and just race as hard as you can every lap. And that's one thing about the World of Outlaws. You have to be 100% every single lap. There's no slacking off, because as soon as you do, there's somebody there to pounce on you.
We have talked to you over the course of the last few years about if you could ever qualify well and be in dashes. You had more hard charger awards than anyone else, I hope this doesn't sound like poking fun at you. I think we've laughed with you and talked about it. What have you done, and what do you continue to do to make that early portion of the night make your latter portion of the night a little bit easier to accomplish?
Oh, yeah, we've definitely come a long way with our qualifying program, and a lot of that a lot of the credit has to go to Tim at HP Engines for that. He's done a fantastic job for us to better our program, and he's just doing a phenomenal job. So I really appreciate what he's doing. And when you can get a motor that runs, that makes life a lot easier, and you makes your car handle better. Just every aspect of things. It's all about that motor. So he's doing a fantastic job, and we've just been working on our setup a little bit to to be better throughout the entire night, and not just really keep throwing a kitchen sink at it through the whole night until we finally hit on something. So, we just finally figured something out, and it's just working. So we just gotta make sure that we continue to stick with it and not get ourselves too far off of that.
All those years of hard chargers passing cars served you well in lap traffic, because you were slicing through that lap traffic, though. I mean, it's not how you want to get that skill set, but that certainly was you had an advantage going through lap traffic as well on Saturday night. That car was just rolling.
Yeah, we could really work through the traffic really well, and like you said, that just I'm just kind of used to trying to get around cars, so it just felt like second nature to me. But I know how it is too. Like, you're out front on a track like that, and I didn't know I had that big of a lead, because you get in lap traffic and you feel the pace of your car slowing down, and just everything going on, and you feel like you're constantly being chased. So you just need to get through it as quick as you can, and that's what I was doing. So yeah, we had a great night.
Finally, for you, Brent, and I may have said finally the last question, but something just came to mind. A year ago, and the reason I know it was a year ago, because I was at Richmond doing the NASCAR race. I went and watched you race at Virginia Motor Speedway. And a couple of days later, you became a free agent and an independent contractor and doing your own deal again. 1 year later, I can't imagine the journey you've been on with Brent Marks Racing and then moving to Murray Marks Racing. Does it seem like a year to you that last deal went away and this new deal came along for you?
Just time flies.
Yeah.
Feels like yesterday my daughter was born and she's already 6 years old. So it just time flies. We stay super busy all the time and we race a lot. So, I put all that stuff to the past, and I don't regret doing that at all. I learned a lot.
Yeah.
I learned a lot of things there, and still very thankful for the opportunity that I had. So something that I felt like I needed to do in my life, and after that, I just felt like I was just a different person mentally, and I just got back to work and just tried to build this team back up to what I know it can be, and I feel like we're heading in that direction right now.
Brian Brown described you in his post-race as the fastest non-outlaw car in the country, so I would say it's rolling along pretty well. It's good, high praise from Brownie, for sure. Brent, congratulations on the success. Congratulations on the win. And beyond that, thank you so much for coming on and choosing to talk a little bit about the Hoosier Tire situation. You did thrust yourself into the headlines, but I appreciate you breaking it down and giving us your perspective on it. We talked to Neal beforehand, gave his perspective. I think what we have here for the fans and for those in the sport is a really good view of it, and I appreciate your perspective on that and your continued success. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, well, I appreciate having me on. Thank you.
There we go. That's Brent Marks joining us here on Wing Nation. Your thoughts on tires, your thoughts on Brent and the Murray Marks Racing, Murray Marks Motorsports team. You can type those thoughts in the comments or follow along with it. We'd love to hear from you, but appreciate all of that. I'm Steve Post from Wing Nation. Thanks again to Neil Cowman from Hoosier Tires, and thanks to Brent Marks for joining us here on this special edition, if you will, of Wing Nation.